Good morning or good afternoon, Tigers. Today we'll be watching a video on Quizzette 711. As always, when you get your Quizzette, the very first thing that you have to do is put your last name, comma, first name. Go ahead and write that right now. Please also write the date. Today's date is October 16th. Please circle your class color. Today I'm going to be purple. Number 1 says, does the following equation form a proportion? The way you check if an equation is proportional and it has ratios, you cross multiply. 5 times 10 is 50. It has a variable, so you keep that variable, 50x. 9 times 6 is 54. You keep that x as well, so 54x. 50 and 54 are not equal. So 50x does not equal 54x. So the equation does not form a proportion. So you would write the equation does not or doesn't form a proportion. And I'm going to apologize right now. I don't know why it's so blurry, my video. So please make sure that you're listening closely. Number 2, does the following equation form a proportion? Okay, let's cross multiply. 5x times 11x is 55x equals 5 times 11x is still 55x. Those are equal to each other. So what you would do is you put a check mark on top of the equal sign. That shows that it's true. So then you would say the equation, I'm just going to write EQ, but you need to write the equation forms a proportion. Forms a proportion. And here you could say the SMP that you're using is you're looking for patterns every time, or you're looking and making use of structure. So I would say SMP 6, 7, or 8 is good for these. Number 3, you have a recipe that calls for 2 cups of flour to make 3 dozen cookies. Dozen means 12. So 3 dozen cookies means you have 36 cookies. Your friend has a cookie recipe that calls for 3 cups of flour to make 60 cookies. Okay. Are the constants of proportionality the same for the 2 recipes? Are the recipes for the same cookie? How do you know? Well, let's take our first ratio. Our first ratio is 2 cups for 3 dozen cookies. Why don't we make that into terms of just the amount of cookies you have? So we said dozen means 12. So 3 times 12 is 36. So you get 36 cookies for 2 cups of flour. Okay? Now let's look at our second ratio. It says it calls for 3 cups of flour to make 60 cookies. All right, let's reduce this until we get our ratio in its simplest form. So 3 goes into both of those. So divide 3 into both of those. 3 goes into 3 cups 1 time. So for every 1 cup, 3 goes into 60 20 times. For every 1 cup using this recipe, you get 20 cookies. Now let's look at the top one. Let's reduce. 2 goes into 2 and 36. So that's, for this one up here, you have 1 cup makes you, what is that, 18? 18 cookies. So your first ratio is 1 over 18, and your second ratio is 1 over 20. Are those equal? No, they're not equal. So you would say the constant of proportionality is different for both of these recipes. So again, you would write the constant of proportionality is different for both of these recipes. Are the recipes for the same cookie? No, they're not for the same cookie, because if it were for the same cookie, it would have the same recipe. And that's, how do you know? That's answering that as well. So please write that in a complete sentence. The SMP that you're using here can honestly be SMP 1, can be SMP 2, it can be SMP 3, SMP 6, and SMP 7. As long as you can justify it, I am okay with it. Make sure you write the number and the quote for your SMPs. All right, moving on. Number 4, the table shows the amount of money raised based on the number of tickets sold for a charity concert. Does the table show a constant of proportionality? If so, what is the constant of proportionality for this situation? So something I want you guys to keep in mind when you see constant of proportionality, that's just a fancy way of saying unit rate. Unit rate. So it wants you to calculate the unit rate, see if it's the same for each case, and if it is, that's the constant of proportionality. So remember, when we read a chart, it's y to x. So we have 3,600 over 160. And for this, you can use a calculator. 11,250 over 500. The next one is 16,875 divided by 750. So right now, I'm going to use a calculator on my phone. You're not allowed to use a calculator on your phone, but you are always allowed, not always, you're allowed to use a calculator on your Chromebook. So 3,600 divided by 160 is 2250. So 2250. Sorry guys, someone knocked at the door. Okay, so we have 3,600 divided by 160, and that's 2250. Now I'm going to do the other one. We have 11,250 divided by 500, and that's also 2250. Now we're trying to see if they all equal each other. Then the table is proportional. So we have 16,875 divided by 750, and that is also 2250. Okay, so since it's all equal, that's our constant of proportionality. Right here, 2250. 2250. Per ticket. So it says, oh, that's it. You can just write a sentence that says the constant of proportionality is 2250. The SMP that you are using right here, you can say that you're thinking quantitatively abstract, you're persevering through problem solving, so that's 1. You're using the table, so you're modeling with math. You are being precise, SMP 6. And you're making use of structure, so that's SMP 7. Now, number 4 on Tuesday right here is asking you if you can sell no more than 2,500 tickets for the concert. Find the maximum amount of money the fundraiser can raise. So here you would multiply the amount of tickets that you need. So the amount of tickets is 2,500 by 2250, and that'll give you the maximum amount. I just thought that this question might be a little confusing for you, so I wanted to give you that hint. We're also going to be taking notes the rest of the week on writing equations. So for instance, this one, if we wrote our equation for number 4, which I might give you extra credit for writing. If you notice here on number 3 for Tuesday, it gives you an equation, y equals rx. When you find your constant of proportionality, you're just going to insert it for the letter r. So for instance, right here we have y equals rx. Put 2250 where r is. So y equals 22.5x. And that's your equation for this table. It's really easy. You just have to find the unit rate, and whatever your unit rate is, you put it into the equation where r is. So don't make it more complicated than it should be, because I feel that my students last year did that. And then cross multiply for Tuesday. Now let's look at Wednesday. Same for number 1, number 2, cross multiply. Number 3, you're going to find the unit rate and then give me the equation. And then number 4, this one's a little bit harder, but all you have to do is make your ratios, find your unit rate, and then multiply the unit rate by that number right there. All right, guys, I hope you have a good week, and just try your best. I know it's not going to be easy, but if you try your best, at the very least, it won't conquer you.